Today on the deep dive, we're jumping right into a question that, honestly, so many people keep asking. Will Wendi Adelson finally be arrested in her ex-husband Dan Markel's murder?
Hmm.
It's just surrounded by intense speculation, right?
Yeah.
So our mission here is to unpack the key evidence, the legal bits from our sources, and give you a clear, sort of impartial look at what we actually know, and maybe more importantly, what's still missing.
Right. And it's really vital to state up front, while no charges have ever been filed against Wendi Adelson, her name, well, it keeps coming up.
Okay.
It's surfaced repeatedly in the trials connected to this case, raising some pretty significant questions. But ultimately, the decision to charge, that always comes down to whether there's sufficient new evidence, there's a specific legal bar to meet.
Okay, let's try and dissect that picture then, the one that's emerged from these trials. Maybe we can start by looking at the evidence that keeps pointing towards Wendy, sort of like building a case people think is there, and then see where the gaps are. How about we start with the family, the Adelson family's feelings about Dan Markel?
Well, Wendy herself testifies she didn't know about any murder plot. That's her testimony. But she did admit her family, especially her mother Donna, felt, let's say, significant anger towards Markle. This was during that really nasty divorce and custody fight. Now, for prosecutors, establishing that kind of animosity, that's sort of step one for motive. It answers the why.
Right, why someone might want him gone.
Exactly, and this is a big but, proving motive is a completely different thing from proving direct involvement in the actual plot. It's foundational, yeah, but it's not the smoking gun itself.
Okay, but then you get these specific testimonies, and this is where it gets really interesting, I think. Her ex-boyfriend, Jeffrey Lacasse, he testified about this pretty chilling conversation just 5 days before the murder. He claims Wendy told him her brother, Charlie, had, quote, looked into all options to fix the Markle problem, and that included hiring a hitman for $15,000.
Yes, that Lacasse testimony is absolutely a cornerstone if you're looking at building a case against her. It tries to establish her prior knowledge, maybe intent. It sounds powerful.
It does.
But Wendy vehemently denies it, says the conversation never happened. So you're stuck in this he said, she said situation. Without any direct corroboration, these conflicting accounts, well, they present a massive hurdle for any potential indictment. Strong claims, sure, but proving them beyond a reasonable doubt, very difficult.
Yeah, that wasn't the only kind of dark joke that came up, right? There was also the TV joke Wendy admitted to, where Charlie supposedly said buying a new TV was cheaper than hiring a hitman after the divorce.
Yeah.
How should we even read something like that?
Yeah, it's not direct proof of a plot, obviously, but it does kind of point to a certain mindset, maybe. For prosecutors, it helps build a narrative. It suggests the idea of a hitman wasn't just some abstract concept, but something actually discussed, maybe even, normalized within the family circle. Wendy called it a joke, but the timing, the context, it looks much more sinister after the fact. It just adds another layer to that circumstantial web.
Okay, so beyond those specific conversations or alleged conversations, there are other things too, right? Like Wendy driving past the crime scene just minutes after the murder happened. Her explanation was it was a shortcut to a liquor store.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's that email from her mom, Donna, telling her, you need to put on the performance of your life.
Mm-hmm. Those details, again, they don't directly tie her to the murder itself, but they certainly paint a picture of, well, suspicion, potential evasiveness, that drive past the scene. If it wasn't just a coincidence, it adds weight to the circumstantial case. And Donna's email, it really suggests a conscious effort to control appearances, which, a jury could interpret in multiple ways. And then you layer on the legal complexities. Wendy had that immunity deal for her testimony.
Right, that's important.
Very. It meant her own words on the stand couldn't be used against her directly, so prosecutors would need completely independent evidence for any future charges against her. We also had that forensic accounting deep dive into her finances.
Yes, what did that show?
It largely contradicted her claims about not being able to afford a new house, undermined part of her stated reasoning related to the divorce and relocation issues, adds another question mark about her narrative.
Okay, so we have all these pieces. Motive, alleged conversations, suspicious actions, financial questions, the immunity deal.
Mm-hmm.
What are the actual, real-world things that could finally push this towards an arrest?
Well, connecting it to the bigger picture, Donna Adelson's recent trial outcome is seen as pretty critical by legal analysts. There's speculation, and it is speculation, that if Donna is convicted and then decides to offer testimony against Wendi, well, that could potentially shift things significantly. That could be the new evidence needed. Though it's important to note, during Donna's trial, her defense team explicitly denied reports that she was even offered a plea deal to implicate Wendi. So that path isn't guaranteed at all.
Right. So what if Donna doesn't cooperate?
Yeah.
Or isn't convicted? Is the evidence we already have, all this like we just talked about, is that actually enough on its own for a prosecutor to say, okay, let's indict Wendi?
And that's really the million-dollar question, isn't it? That's the crux. While everything presented so far has definitely, raised eyebrows and fueled endless scrutiny, it just hasn't met that strict legal standard for an indictment. To actually charge someone, prosecutors need to show probable cause. That usually means direct evidence, corroborated evidence, so a future arrest. It would almost certainly need, quote, additional, more direct evidence, something new, something concrete, which is exactly why the investigation is still technically open. Florida prosecutors have said their work isn't done. So that possibility, however remote it might seem sometimes, remains.
So for you, listening right now, trying to sort through all this, what's the takeaway? What's the bottom line here?
The bottom line is, there's no definitive answer possible right now on whether Wendi Adelson will be arrested. It's still just a question, a central, nagging question. It's fueled ongoing speculation, but despite all the scrutiny across multiple trials, no charges have been filed against her to date. It really shows that gap, doesn't it, between strong suspicion, even compelling circumstantial evidence, and the kind of solid proof needed for a criminal charge and conviction.
It really does. It's such a stark reminder of how messy and complicated these big legal cases can be. All these layers of interpretation and just that constant painstaking search for one conclusive piece of evidence that might change everything.
Indeed. And maybe this brings up an important question for you to think about. In situations like this one, with so much circumstantial evidence swirling around but maybe no single smoking gun, what do you think is the biggest barrier? What's the biggest hurdle to actually reaching a final, definitive legal resolution?